Hello everyone, my name is Qiang Zhang. I am going to introduce PhoneGap in a simple manner so that you'll have a rough idea of why you need PhoneGap and what PhoneGap can do for you. Nowadays, the mobile application market is expanding exponentially. As a developer, you really want to develop some mobile apps to make a fortune. However, language barriers may draw you back since you don't know Objective-C, Android SDK, or the Microsoft .NET framework. More importantly, you don't have the time to learn them. So you may wonder, can I develop some mobile app technologies that I'm familiar with without using that crazy stuff? Yes, you can, and the answer is using PhoneGap. First things first, what exactly can we do with PhoneGap? PhoneGap, which is currently named Apache Cordova, is a framework that builds cross-platform mobile applications. It uses popular web technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to develop mobile apps on iOS, Android, and other mobile platforms. Building a mobile application with PhoneGap is as simple as building a web application. More powerfully, the PhoneGap app can access native mobile functionalities such as the camera, contacts, and GPS. Theoretically, a complete PhoneGap app consists of the native part and the web part. In most situations, we only need to develop our business logic using web technologies, without bothering with any native code. So how does PhoneGap work? PhoneGap wraps a WebKit component for different mobile platforms to run the web code, and adds JavaScript interfaces so that the native functionalities can be invoked in the web code. An app running inside the native container, rendering web pages, and also accessing device capabilities is called a hybrid app. PhoneGap is a hybrid app platform. Why choose PhoneGap over other similar products? Listen to these numbers about PhoneGap. By 2011, there were over 10,000 users and 23,000 PhoneGap apps deployed on the App Store. Over 3,000 apps are built using PhoneGap every day. Besides these amazing numbers, it costs no money to use it. PhoneGap has been a popular lightweight solution for mobile applications. Also, we can understand the benefits of using web technologies if we use PhoneGap. For example, reducing learning time, the cross-platform feature, and using existing JavaScript libraries and web services. We can even do more with cutting-edge web technologies such as HTML5 and CSS3. To access native functionalities, PhoneGap exposes simple JavaScript interfaces that can be extended with numerous PhoneGap plugins without writing a single line of native code. In this section, I have introduced what PhoneGap is and the reason to choose it as your mobile development platform. I will go through some PhoneGap limitations and barriers in the next section to help you understand PhoneGap completely. In the previous section, we simply discussed what PhoneGap is and what are the benefits of using PhoneGap for mobile application development. Nothing's perfect. Although PhoneGap can cover over 90% of mobile application requirements, it also has its limitations. This section will give you a full understanding of PhoneGap so that you can decide whether PhoneGap is the solution for your business. First, native apps always feel like native apps since they have native UI components, while a PhoneGap app is simply a web page which has a big distance from the native UI in terms of look and feel. Fortunately, CSS3 opens the door to this fancy UI. Look at the UI components using CSS3. You can't tell if they're not native. Also, most mobile web application frameworks provide various UI themes. PhoneGap app UI is no worse than a native app. Aside from the UI, PhoneGap currently says no to hardcore 3D applications. If you want to develop a 3D game, PhoneGap is not a good choice. This results in some amount of debugging work on specific devices after development. For example, CSS scrolling is only supported after 2.3 for Android and 5.0 for iOS. This video course will cover most of the gaps for your development. If you have ever written web pages, PhoneGap is your dream platform to develop mobile applications. But the development of PhoneGap apps is not fully equal to that of web pages and web applications. Firstly, PhoneGap apps are stored locally on the device, while web pages and web applications are hosted on a web server usually. This means there's nearly no latency to load up stored web pages and assets for PhoneGap applications. Besides, PhoneGap apps can run offline. Internet connection is only an option for PhoneGap apps like native apps. Secondly, PhoneGap apps can access device capabilities through JavaScript interfaces like the accelerometer, camera, compass, etc. In this course, we're going to cover the following content. PhoneGap app development process will include how to install PhoneGap and develop and publish your app. Development preparation contains a tutorial of tools that will help you in app development. It'll also introduce some fancy CSS and cool HTML skills. A good practice for JavaScript code is more important than ever. Also, introduce some helpful application frameworks. And how to import PhoneGap plugins to make your app more powerful. And how to connect your app to remote servers. And finally, I will demonstrate a complete example. In this section, we covered some limitations of PhoneGap and how this course is going to help with your development. Now you should have a full picture of PhoneGap and should be able to decide whether a mobile application can be written in PhoneGap or not. Please take a look at the related links, which are very useful for your learning. In the next chapter, we will install PhoneGap and start to use it.